I am very frightful, but I'm willing to go and be ordained. I don't look at the priesthood in a sense for any glory. From as far as, a person goes in the army or wear a uniform or something, he's there strutting down the street thinking he's somebody. When I think about the priesthood for myself, it frightens me, like I said before, and other things. But what can be accomplished? As far as the sacraments are concerned, for my own good and for others also. To truly develop a community with a superior being ordained, and even if possible eventually come to be an abbot. But a superior is a lonely job, and his source of comfort, his source of wisdom, his source of knowledge must come from God himself. The church right now is fragmented. We must teach Catholics, traditionalist Catholics, we may use that terminology. I'd rather use the word Roman Catholic. We must unite. If we do not unite, we come together and working for one goal, and that goal is Holy Mother Church. Upon this rock I build my church, Peter. We must maintain that structure. We must uphold that structure no matter what the cost may be. We must uphold the structure of the papacy. And we must try to unite the church, not fragment it. Now this might sound strange to some people that I know. We must maintain ourselves within the framework of that church. And to fight with every tool that the church allows us to fight with. I like to just say, as far as our day is concerned, as you just said, the darkness that we are in, this is not coincidence. It's diabolical. The seed of Satan has been sowed. That's the biggest problem I think God has with us, because we don't always obey. We prolong things to our own doubts, our lack of understanding and so on. But still, we go through that process. It's a process of growing, developing. So getting back to this community, this as far as a Latin Tridentine Mass. So as you see people looking and hunting for what they once had, why should they be denied this? This is the way they want to worship. This is the way they always worshiped. And they wanted to continue to worship in the same manner. Then it was my responsibility also to give to them, to hold them together, to preserve what they knew to be Catholic and their faith. When you look into their eyes, you saw them crying out. This is a matter of salvation. And when you see people crying out, it's a matter of salvation. Even by law of the church, we cannot turn our backs upon these people. When it's put down, it's a matter of salvation. We must do everything in our power to preserve the faith and their salvation. So, really, you have no other course to take. You must bring about and bring the Mass to them, give them the Mass, give them the sacraments, and the teachings that go with it. This is a responsibility. We must uphold that responsibility. We cannot shun it and say, well, no, you have to do this, and lose those souls. You cannot lose them. There's room in the church. There should be room in the church as far as the Catholic faith is concerned, even after the changes came about. We cannot say, or the bishops cannot say, well, we'll forget about those people. So I couldn't see possible to go along with the trend in the changes and deny those who were being denied their heritage.
That is prevalent is sedevacantism, and I want to cover that area. Sedevacantism, which means a vacant seat, or the seat of Peter, which the true pope sits upon, is vacant. There's no question about it. The seat of Peter has been vacant at different times of the church, and is always vacant when a new pope is being elected, after a pope has died or in a conclave. The sedevacantist line is that there has been no pope since Pope Pius XII. Manifest heresy automatically or ipso facto affects an excommunication for any person in any office, and the Church has a right from God to separate itself from a heretical pope, and consequently to apply all the means that are in and of themselves necessary for such a separation. But in the case of the Pope, the determination that the person has lost his position would have to be made by the universal Church, most probably through the declaration of a general council, or stated by a future Pope, before Catholics could arrive at such a conclusion. And you have the example of St. Peter, where he denied our Lord to the point of cursing and blaspheming, but he didn't lose his position. And by the way, also, Padre Pio told John Paul II when he was a priest, he said, one day you'll be Pope. Now, he didn't say you'll be a good Pope. He just said, you'll be Pope one day. That's all he said. So the thing is, that's even a strong indicator in itself that they definitely are wrong. Sedevacantists claim simply there is no pope anywhere, in spite of the fact that there hasn't been anything to keep the real pope from coming out in the open. Most sedevacantists cannot and do not even try to come up with anyone who may be the pope. Every kind of misdeed. In a word, there is no divine promise that the pope will not be permitted to use his great authority in the most wicked and destructful ways. Such a pope, however, despite all and any manner of unholy action, would not lose his own legitimacy, his all-comprehensive jurisdiction, nor the divine prerogative of infallibility, so that, should an avowed conspirator become the Roman pontiff, were he converted, he might immediately set about repairing the damage he himself had inflicted on the Church, without needing to be re-elected, reinstalled, or reconfirmed in his office. Only his private confession, absolution from censure, which means penalty, that he might have incurred would be required. The widespread notion that anyone who incurs ipso facto excommunication is thereby out of the Church, no longer a member, and therefore loses all ecclesiastical offices, dignities, etc., is based on a fundamental misconception. Once a Catholic, always a Catholic is a valid principle. A valid excommunication does not mean that the Church thereby excludes the person altogether, but the subject may not participate in the life of the Church. That is, receive any of the sacraments of the living, or participate in liturgical ceremonies, or take part in church functions, etc. As regard any offices, they are lost through a canonical condemnation only. Loss of an ecclesiastical office occurs immediately upon the declaration of, quote, excommunication and to be avoided by the Pope himself. Obviously, the Supreme Pontiff cannot incur this censure. But at the same time, no one may justifiably blame even an errant Pope for his sins. The failure of any person, even the Pope, to keep God's laws or persevere in his own faith does not excuse any other person for his failure to do the same. And they do not convert, they will most certainly perish. And we know that this is predicted. So the thing is we know this is predicted. Our Lady of La Salette said on September the 19th, 1846, that Rome would lose the faith and become the Antichrist. So the main thing of all these things is to keep the Catholic faith, to uphold what has always been taught.
This is Brother Peter Diamond, VaticanCatholic.com, and we wanted to address the issue, was Brother Michael Diamond always a sedevacantist? And this issue becomes relevant every once in a while because you have certain individuals who, since they have nothing else to say, they bring up the fact, well, 14 years ago, Brother Michael Diamond wasn't a sedevacantist. And that's true. As we've pointed out, it's a logical progression for people to go from non-sedevacantism to sedevacantism, because it's the duty of every Catholic to accept the man who purports to be the Bishop of Rome as the Pope, unless there's clear evidence of an invalid election or manifest heresy. And so, if someone is supposedly elected by the supposed College of Cardinals and installed as the supposed Pope, it is a Catholic's duty to accept and acknowledge him as the Pope. And so it would be a logical progression for people to go from holding the position that some of these Vatican II anti-popes are true popes until they come across the evidence which persuades them and convinces them that they are not popes. And that was the case with Most Holy Family Monastery. In fact, before I entered Most Holy Family Monastery, this was, as I said, about 15 years ago, quite a long time. I've been here about 12 years. And so when Brother Michael entered Most Holy Family Monastery, it was traditionalist, but it did not hold the sedevacantist position. And then, not long after, He took the sedevacantist position after learning more about the issues.